She dreamed her own death every night for a year. She cried to her mother, she begged people to listen, and nobody did. Then one Tuesday morning in August, she walked into a locked office and never walked out. August 4th, 1981, Toledo, Ohio, a Tuesday. The kind of day that doesn't announce itself. Humid, unremarkable, the sort of morning where people move through their routines without thinking twice. Cynthia Anderson was 20 years old. She lived with her parents in Lambertville, Michigan, a small, quiet place just across the state line. Her family was devout, strict even. Sundays were for church, not sleeping in. There was a right way to live, and the Andersons knew what it looked like. Cindy fit the picture, responsible, cheerful, grounded in her faith. She'd been working as a legal secretary at a law office on East Manhattan Boulevard in Toledo for some time now, and she was genuinely good at it. By noon, the attorneys would come in from court appearances and morning meetings, and everything would already be organized, mails sorted, phones prepped, desks clean. That was Cindy. She ran the mornings alone, and she liked it that way. Except lately, alone had started to feel different. Something had been building in the months leading up to August. It hadn't started with a single incident. It had crept in slowly, the way dread usually does. About 10 months before she disappeared, Cindy noticed something written on a wall near the office. Someone had spray-painted a message in direct view of her work window. "I love you, Cindy," by G.W. Bold, visible, pointed. She didn't know anyone with those initials. The message wasn't romantic to her. It was a statement of presence. Someone wanted her to know they were watching. When the message was finally painted over 6 months later, she exhaled, and then, within weeks, it came back. Bigger this time, more visible than before. "I love you, Cindy," by G.W. The same initials, the same wall, same line of sight from her desk. The phone calls started around the same time. The nature of those calls was never fully disclosed publicly, but we know what they did to her. The day before she vanished, a client came into the office to settle a bill. While he was standing at the counter, the phone rang. He watched Cindy answer it. He watched her face change. By the time she put the receiver down, she was visibly shaken, pale, quiet, distracted. He asked if something was wrong. She deflected, but he was concerned enough to contact Toledo police that same day and request drive-by patrols near the office. Her employers took it seriously too. An emergency buzzer was installed at her desk that summer, wired to alert the business next door if she pressed it. She was told to keep the doors locked at all times, even during regular business hours. Visitors had to be buzzed in. The office, in effect, became a fortified room, but there was something else going on that nobody around her seemed to fully absorb, something that, in hindsight, makes this case feel almost unbearable to sit with. For an entire year before she disappeared, Cynthia Anderson had been dreaming her own death. Not vague anxiety dreams, not stress-induced nightmares that fade by breakfast. These were specific, recurring, and they terrified her. In the dreams, there was always a man. She would hear a knock at the door. She'd recognize him, someone she knew, and she'd let him in. And then he would turn on her. She'd run. She'd try to get away. She never did. Her sister Christine remembered overhearing Cindy one morning crying to their mother before work. "He killed me, Mom." That was what she said. Not, "I had a nightmare." Not, "I had a bad dream." "He killed me." Her mother tried to calm her down, told her it wasn't real. Cindy wasn't so sure. She still went to work that morning. Cindy pulled into the shopping center parking lot at 8:50 a.m. and parked her 1980 Chevrolet Citation close to the front entrance. She unlocked the door, stepped inside, and locked it behind her. The lawyers were all at court. The office was hers for the next few hours. She turned on the air conditioning, it was already thick with summer heat, and settled in. A janitor working in the shopping center spotted her at her desk around 9:45 a.m. She was there, working. Everything looked normal. Sometime after 10 a.m., the phone calls to the office stopped being answered. That 90-minute window, between 9:45 and when her coworkers arrived at noon, is where everything falls apart. When two of her colleagues walked in at 12 p.m., the office felt immediately wrong. Not because it was ransacked, not because anything was obviously out of place. In fact, the unsettling part was the opposite. Everything looked almost normal. The lights were on. The air conditioner was running. The radio was playing. The mail that had been delivered through the door slot was neatly placed inside the entrance. The desks had been prepared for the day. On the surface, it looked like Cindy had stepped out for a moment and would be right back. But she hadn't left a note on the door. That was the first crack. She always left a note when she stepped out, even for 5 minutes. No note. The phones weren't on hold, another thing she always did before leaving, even briefly. And then there was the book. Cindy had been reading a romance novel, the kind of paperback that office workers keep in a desk drawer for slow afternoons. It was lying open on her desk. But the page it was open to wasn't a random stopping point. It was the only violent passage in the entire novel, a scene in which the heroine is abducted at knife point. Whether the book had been left open to that page deliberately, or whether it had simply fallen there when Cindy was startled or grabbed, no one could say. But it sat there, face up, as if waiting to be found. Police were called. They walked the office, checked the building. No sign of struggle, no overturned furniture, no broken glass. Nothing to suggest a violent altercation had taken place inside those walls. And yet, Cindy was gone. Her purse was missing. Her car keys were missing. But her car was still sitting in the parking lot, locked, exactly where she'd left it that morning. She had not driven away. If she had left voluntarily, she'd walked. With her purse and keys and nothing else, in the middle of a workday, without a word to anyone. The bank account she'd been carefully saving into, a substantial amount for a 20-year-old, had not been touched. Her social security number was never used again after August 4th, 1981. The doors to the office were locked when her coworkers arrived, the same door she had locked behind herself that morning. There was no forced entry, no broken lock, no tampered window. If someone had entered and left with her, the office somehow looked perfectly undisturbed, and the door was locked from the outside on the way out. That detail has gnawed at investigators and true crime researchers for over 4 decades. Because it means one of a few things. Cindy let someone in herself, someone she recognized, someone she trusted enough to buzz through the locked door, and left with them voluntarily or by force. Or the person who took her had a key. One name kept coming back when detectives thought about who had keys to that office: a maintenance worker. His initials, GW. The same initials spray-painted twice on the wall outside, in direct sight of her desk. He was among the last people confirmed to have seen Cindy alive that morning. He had a key to the building. When detectives questioned him, he denied writing the messages. He said they were meant for a different Cindy. A coincidence, he claimed. No charges were ever filed. No evidence directly tied him to her disappearance. But the overlap, the initials, the access, the timing, was enough to keep him permanently in the investigative background. The case had barely started, and already it had more questions than answers. About a month after Cindy vanished, the Toledo Police Department received a phone call. The woman on the other end was whispering. She said she wanted to remain anonymous. And then she told them something that sent detectives scrambling. Cynthia Anderson was alive. She was being held in the basement of a white house. There were 2 houses, she said, side by side, both owned by the same family. The parents were away. Their son was the one keeping Cindy there. Police pressed her. What was the address? The woman's voice tightened. She said she was scared. She hung up. She called back. Again, they asked for specifics, a street name, a neighborhood, anything to narrow it down. Again, she went quiet and hung up a second time. She never called again. A search of Toledo turned up nothing. No white houses matching the description, no son, no Cindy. The caller, whoever she was, knew something, or at least believed she did. But whether that information was real, mistaken, or something else entirely, no one has ever been able to determine. Meanwhile, investigators were quietly pulling on a different thread, one that, the more they pulled, the more tangled and dark it became. Richard Neller was an attorney who had worked out of the same law firm where Cindy was employed. He had a client named Jose Rodriguez Jr., a drug dealer who would later be identified as a ringleader in a major narcotics operation in northern Ohio. The two of them, attorney and client, had apparently developed a relationship that went well beyond standard legal representation. Neller wasn't just defending Rodriguez. He was advising him on how to avoid getting caught. He was, in the eyes of federal prosecutors, a participant. The theory that emerged, and it's the theory that Toledo investigators have leaned toward most heavily over the years, is this. Cindy overheard something she wasn't supposed to hear. A conversation between Neller and Rodriguez, perhaps held at or near the law office. Something about the operation, something specific enough that it made her a liability. She was 20 years old. She answered phones and sorted mail. She wasn't looking for trouble. But sometimes trouble finds you simply by being in the wrong room at the wrong time. At Rodriguez's federal drug trial in 1995, 14 years after Cindy disappeared, an informant took the stand and testified that Rodriguez had confessed to killing her. The motive, according to the informant, was cold and transactional. Rodriguez wanted to send a message to Neller. He felt Neller had not adequately represented him during an earlier legal proceeding. Killing the secretary, someone connected to the firm, someone who could become a witness, was meant to demonstrate what happened to people who failed him. The judge ruled the testimony unreliable. It was thrown out. Neller was eventually disbarred. Both he and Rodriguez were convicted on federal drug charges and served prison sentences. After his release, Neller returned to Toledo and was caught working as a paralegal, a violation of his disbarment, which barred him from any role in the legal field in Ohio. He was removed. He died in 2024, taking whatever he knew with him. Rodriguez remained behind bars. No charges were ever filed in connection with Cindy's disappearance. Officially, it remains open. But there were other suspects orbiting this case, ones that had nothing to do with the law office. In the summer of 1981, Toledo was dealing with something that rarely made the national news, but terrified the people who lived there: a string of killings. Several of the victims were connected to the same shopping center where Cindy worked. Brothers Anthony and Nathaniel Cook were active during this period. Between them, they would eventually be convicted of 9 murders in the Toledo area across the 1970s and early 1980s. The timing was not lost on investigators. Both brothers denied having anything to do with Cindy Anderson. A fourth suspect, a convicted murderer currently imprisoned in Ohio, has also been looked at in connection with the case. His name has never been publicly released. His connection to Cindy has never been established. He remains a person of interest, nothing more. And somewhere in all of this, Cindy's family waited. Her father, Michael, before he died, said he sometimes wondered if his daughter was still out there somewhere, living under a different name maybe, suffering from amnesia, not knowing who she was. He wanted her to know that if she ever heard his voice or saw a face she recognized, the door was open. The family was waiting. Both of Cindy's parents passed away without ever getting an answer. There's a version of this story that investigators and documentarians tend to tell in a fairly straightforward way. Young woman, locked office, suspicious lawyer, drug ring, unsolved. The facts line up cleanly enough to present like that. But if you step back from the case file and sit with what we actually know about Cindy Anderson as a person, not as a victim, not as a data point, but as a human being, something heavier settles in. She knew. Not in a way that would hold up in court. Not in any way she could have articulated to a detective or written into an incident report. But for 12 months before she disappeared, her mind was sending her the same message on repeat. Every night, in the most visceral language it knew how to use. A man she recognized, a door she opened, a mistake she couldn't take back. Her mother tried to dismiss it. Her father didn't seem to fully grasp it. And Cindy, raised in a household where faith was the framework for everything, where dreams were dreams and the waking world was what mattered, kept getting up in the morning and going to work. She had, by August 1981, taken every precaution available to her. She kept the door locked. She had the buzzer on her desk. She scanned everyone who knocked before deciding whether to let them in. She was, by every measure, doing what a person is supposed to do when they feel threatened. And somehow, none of it was enough. That locked door, the one that has baffled researchers for over 40 years, might actually be the key to understanding what happened. Because the office wasn't broken into. There was no shattered glass, no forced lock, no evidence of anyone fighting their way inside. The door was locked from the inside when Cindy arrived. The door was locked from the outside when her coworkers found the office empty. That means she opened it for someone, willingly, which means, on some level, she trusted whoever was standing on the other side. Was it someone from the law firm? An attorney or associate who arrived early, knocked, and she had no reason to suspect? Was it the maintenance worker with the initials she'd been seeing painted on the wall outside her window for nearly a year? Was it someone connected to Rodriguez? Someone sent specifically because they knew a friendly face would get through a locked door faster than a crowbar? Or was it someone whose name has never appeared in any official record? Someone who has spent 4 decades living an ordinary life in Ohio, never charged, never named, never held accountable. 44 years later, no one knows. The money in Cindy's bank account has never been touched. Her social security number has never surfaced in any database anywhere in the country. She hasn't used a credit card, filed a tax return, or appeared on a single document, not in Ohio, not anywhere in the United States. In the world of missing persons, that kind of total erasure almost always means one thing. But the case is still officially listed as an endangered missing person. Toledo Police Department still holds it open. The NAMUS database still carries her file, case number MP10491. Cynthia Cindy Jane Anderson. Born February the 4th, 1961. 5 feet 4 inches tall, brown eyes, brown hair. A chickenpox scar on her forehead. A small fishhook-shaped scar on the inside of her right knee. She was 20 years old. She was 2 weeks away from starting a new chapter of her life. College, her boyfriend, the future she'd planned out carefully. She had her faith, her savings, and her routines, and she kept every single one of them right up until the morning she didn't come home. Her dreams tried to warn her for a year. We'll probably spend the next 40 years wondering if there was ever a moment, any moment, where listening to them might have changed how this ends. It still hasn't ended. That might be the most haunting part of all.